Hi, this is Tim Sanders, founder of the OMNIA Radiation Balancer. Pretty soon there will be 5G masts going up all around us, and we want to make sure that you're giving yourself the best protection on the market. Our solution is unique. We use a new source of energy from the fifth dimension to balance radiation fields on any device, making it safe to use. Our results show that this structures water, it balances the blood, and it keeps your body super strong. And yes, it works on 5G. The energy in the patch never runs out, so count up all the radiating devices in your life, stick one on each, and you're done. Click on the link below and you'll soon be bringing balance and strength back to your body. Thank you.
Yo guys, what's up? You're listening to Journey to Truth podcast. Tonight we are joined by our good friend Mason Feary. Mason, we met him at ECETI, actually, at the conference at ECETI, and we became friends. We started hanging out with him and realized he is a very interesting person, and he's a lot of interesting stuff to discuss and bring forward. He was a former Geospatial Intelligence Analyst for the NGA and the U.S. Army. So he learned a ton while he was there, and obviously that led to his spiritual awakening, which we're going to also get into a little bit of that, but we're going to turn it over to him, turn it over to you, Mason, and let you do a little better introduction of yourself, and we'll go from there.
No problem. Yeah, so I didn't have money for college, so I joined the Army, and I went to recruiter, and I was like, hey, what can I do with computers? And they go, we got this program called Geospatial Engineer. I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. What is it? He goes, I have no idea, but sign the paper. So I said, all right.
That sounds awesome. Sign me up.
Yeah. He's like, hey, there's $20,000 signing bonus too. So I was like, oh, even better. So got the signing bonus. Turned out that it was like a 75% fail rate for this class. So entry soldiers going into basic training, they pass it. You had to at least score an 86 on your ASVAB, which is their military test to see if you have intelligence or not. So I scored through that, and I graduated top 3 in my class. And then ever since then, it was my dream to go work at that place I went to school at, which was the NGA, the actual facility. It was just one of the biggest accomplishments, actually getting a civilian job, not only in the military, but a civilian teaching there at the NGA. And I actually, at the same time, was drilling there as a soldier. So I had 2 jobs within this facility, it's a great accomplishment once you go from reservist to essentially your highest rank of what you can do as any type of position within these intelligence ranks. I was actually under a program that was overseen by the Obama administration when it came to certain aspects of national security. And it's funny because during this time, this was about 2017, our products every month would go to his desk, yet we never got a response, meaning one, he didn't care about our work or he was too preoccupied. And then you can kind of see what happened after that. And this project was pretty big when it comes to nuclear assets. I will say that. Tracking them, seeing where they're going, who owns them. And if a president doesn't care about that, what's going around in the world, he's obviously doing something else. So kind of makes sense. But so basically, I was climbing up the ranks. I was making like 40K a year in the Army, basic, specialist. And then I got bumped to 75 for being a civilian. And then the money just kept coming. And as the money kept coming, I started getting introduced to people. I would be in meetings with some head people in the intelligence agency. I actually attended a meeting with Mr. Clapper, who was at the time, I think he was the director of the National Defense Intelligence Agency. I attended a conference at a facility called ADF East, doing some updates on our security and things like that. But as I continued to go forward, I started being approached by some cabinet members of some Freemasons that were basically by George Washington's estate in Alexandria, Virginia. There is the first Masonic Lodge, or one of the first ones. They do have that temple there in Old Town, but they wanted me to meet there. Basically, that's kind of what awoke in my eyes, because I was like, well, why is there a club inside of a government intelligence agency? I got recruited previously when I was a recruit in the Army. Like, hey, oh, you want to join the Freemasons? Oh, yeah, go do this stuff. One of the things he told me is anything you get promised, whether it be money, rank, or power, make sure you get it in writing. And that's the thing that kind of held on to my attention span when I started talking to these people. It's like, how can they promise me those things? I actually remember when I was 23, just here in my hometown, Bremerton, one of them asked me to go visit a temple. And I went to go knock on the door. And then something inside my head was like, go to the back door. I was like, all right, that's kind of weird. So I would walk around, go to the back, and then said, all right, go to the front door. And I got totally tripped out at this point. And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. I'm not going to do it. So I completely left, called the dude that wanted me to show up. And he's like, oh, they won't make you do anything you don't want to do. And I said, that's kind of weird. And so I held off. But being revisited in the intelligence agency many years in the future, these people, they don't hold a rank like director. They don't hold a rank like branch chief. They don't hold any positional authority, but they have more authority in those ranks than the actual elected people, just because the people they're tied into. And if you don't agree with what they do or say, they can ruin your career. Actually, a couple of days before I got fired, I told one of my coworkers, he was like, why don't you want to join the Masons? And I said, well, because I don't want to touch little boys and do rituals. And then literally the next day I got fired.
Wow.
So,
good for you, though. I mean,
good for you.
Good for you.
But at that time, I had no idea. I was just joking. I was like, because that gave me a weird feeling. So, but I had told this dude, like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And I got fired. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So that says everything you need to know right there.
Yeah. Well, these people are different. They, and then learning kind of through my own research, some of the stuff they study, it makes sense why they're infiltrated in these positions. You're starting to learn about higher mental functions in accordance with chakra systems to not only manipulate other people, but to portray an illusion of yourself towards other people. So when you think about like a speaker, for example, like maybe Obama, I'm going to put him out there. They are taught how to use their third eye to project outward to whoever they're discussing, in however emotion they want to seed into people's consciousness. And that's just understanding higher mental form of thinking. Manifesting your own desire or your own will with intent through knowledge, to have manipulation over other people. And there's so much more that goes into this kind of stuff.
Well, it's all black magic, and they're very well versed in this stuff. They know exactly what they're doing. It's not just that. There's all kinds of mind manipulation tactics that they practice, and actual rituals and actual ceremonies, and that's obviously the Freemasons come in. Yeah,
absolutely. So my first example, when I was knocking on the door, I think that was a test. And a lot of people were like, no, it's not. It's like, clearly it was, because it was a voice giving me directions. First of all, that doesn't happen. My own thoughts, or that was that it tripped me out. All I was doing was knocking on the door, but they had known in advance that I was supposed to be there. So that was back in 2013, because I wasn't awake yet. I was still sleeping, doing all the drama. But in this was 2016, I actually ended up dying. After I was making my ranks, making really, good money professionally, my personal life and my emotional life was just garbage. It trying to live that dream, the American dream, to go work and do nothing else but pay attention to your work and try to keep your emotions separate and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on at the time. And to kind of fast forward into a story, they can sometimes pick people out of a crowd because they want you to do certain acts, or they see certain things within an individual that they want to recruit. And one of my traits was, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I am very empathetic now, but also I had anger issues and rage issues. I actually identified with the Marvel character Hulk for the majority of my childhood and youth, for good reason. Yeah, for good reason. And when you learn about like Archon energy and what anger is and why they can use that, that is absolutely dangerous. So one night I actually got really, really drunk and threw a huge party. Earlier that year, my girlfriend and I kind of separated and kind of messed me up quite a bit because we were together for 4 years, you know, going out to this new place in Virginia. It's like I got my job. Well, I ended up getting her pregnant. And at the time, I didn't know how detrimental it was, but we ended up agreeing on getting an abortion. And I didn't realize at the time in that decision how much it would have affected me until I started drinking a lot. And I started really drinking. And I started really getting into my emotions. And then all the things that ever happened to me throughout my childhood and young adolescence kind of was at a boiling point. And that night during that party, I was cleaning up. I didn't eat anything. I think I drank about like a fifth of whiskey myself. And you got to remember, I was a semi-pro bodybuilder. So I was like 240 at 5'9". I was a big boy. I face planted on a glass table, cut my arteries in my arm, cut my neck. I woke up covered in blood and went to my neighbor and is like, hey, can you call the paramedics? And then the paramedics showed up. And basically I blacked out. I completely blacked out. And according to what happened is I wrestled with all the paramedics and all the police officers and a couple firefighters to where they had to put narcotics in me and it killed me. Going back into that moment through meditation now, I realized there was multiple, and I mean multiple energy attachments. There was certain people that wanted me to go a certain way. And each time I kind of tilted into that degree, I would get offered more money. And so at that point, you know, fast forwarding to the day I got fired, on top of all of that pre-existing, because I wasn't healing anything, I went homeless. I was homeless for 6 months. And I had, the only thing that kept me going was my mom. And my mom was into Reiki. She was into spirituality. She was into energy work. And so that kind of woke me up a little bit to a bunch of different things. And then I realized that some of the people that I was talking to are some of the people that are in the news now that are getting in trouble for quite big crimes, or they're affiliated with these type of people. And so basically, I dedicated myself to my own research, looking into some of these things like, well, what is occult? What is it? You know,
sure.
The typical questions. And it goes all the way back to Egyptian times. And I started kind of not really poking my nose around in these facilities, but like the Freemason temples, but I started asking questions, doing a whole bunch of research, and I found a huge satanic network in DC, where they do some of these rituals. You know, people talk about wet rooms. You ever heard of those?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know much.
So wet rooms, and they're in every alley in DC. It's a room where they take you and they'll kill you if you basically go against what they say. I got introduced into, because when you're on the streets in DC, it's a pretty tough life. I got introduced into kind of an underground sex type scenario in the middle of DC. There was a bar that I ended up working at because that's the only thing I could do, which was a strip club for men, mainly gay men. Not that I was gay, but I just knew, hey, I get money. You know, so how do I survive?
Sure.
And then watching these people and politicians come here, it was kind of weird. But then you understand that these politicians are hanging out with extremely wealthy other gay men. I mean, like extremely wealthy, billion-dollar homes. You start connecting the dots. And I really didn't start connecting those dots till I moved back to Washington.
Were there any like names that we would recognize coming through there?
Not necessarily. So from when I started working there, from what I was told, there are cabinet members in the old presidential campaign that would attend at this bar. But when I started showing up, those people stopped showing up and other people started showing up. And they actually would try to recruit me into some of this. I mean, here's an example. They'd offer me $10,000 to do some nasty thing. And it would start there. And usually if you would say yes, then it would get worse. So not only was I recruited in like the Freemasonry intelligence side, they're then trying to recruit me into the sexual exploitation side.
So really, really quick. So these entity attachments that you realized that you had, do you think that these were these people who were trying to recruit you, they were sending these things your way, trying to manipulate you, or do you think it just came in from the alcohol?
So both, actually. So it's funny when I trace it back, the timeline of my drinking and the timeline of being around them was parallel to each other. Now, what I learned is that, through abortion, that's actually a satanic ritual. And most people don't know that. And so doing that and dying, that was allowing something else to come within me, because my aura was completely gone. It was completely open. And I remember now, actually recently, going back into that time, when I was dead, I remember a voice saying, like, "Are you done?" And I kind of looked back and was like, "What do you mean, are you done?" It's like, "Are you done?" And I said, I don't understand. And then I could see, but also be in my body at the same time. And they basically said, you have a lot of work to do if you want to go back. And I said, okay, what is it? And then they said, we'll show you. And the next thing I remember is I was awake in my own body. Now the healing didn't happen right away. This is 2017. I don't think I hit majority of my healing until last year. But ever since then, ever since that moment of, I guess you could say, crossing the path almost, or crossing that bridge, there has been a presence within me that is showing me the light. And, they always say those near-death experiences kind of get you a little bit closer to those different entities. And I believe that you're at that moment when you come back, it's not that I was alone. It's just I'm more aware that I was never alone. And they help you kind of be like that counselor within your earpiece to, be like, hey, instead of doing that, do this, shifting that perspective a little bit to naturally through your own occurrences kind of figure out how to, not only for me, do my own healing, whether it was like walking through nature, but also realizing these energy attachments. Sometimes they'd show me what these were in dreams. And I was like, holy crap, this is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what really made a huge impact was changing my diet. We don't realize it's all inside of this food, and it keeps you kind of locked into a certain pattern.
Yeah.
I
realize it.
Yeah, I went vegan for a year, and I was like, okay, let me try this out. A lot of vegans get some bad rap for it, but I tell you what, I cleaned all the hormones out of my body. I cleaned my liver, which, every one of these hormonal systems are tied to certain chakras. So not only through cleaning my diet was I clearing my chakras, but also clearing my energy bodies, being aware of more subtle energies and things around me in my field, which is quite amazing when you really think.
So going back to, I want to continue.
I go all over the place. I'm sorry.
No, it's
it's amazing.
This is great. So going back to the bar, they were making you offers you were not accepting, and then what happened after that scene?
Okay, so I worked there for about 6 months, and I'm not going to really name the place of it because there are some good people that work there, but the majority of the clientele, at the time I didn't know about, when you look into a person's eyes, you should see something or you should feel a little something. Looking back, I have a completely different understanding of what these people were. But a lot of times, they would just look at you, and it's not like your typical encounter when you're at a full nude male bar in DC. One, DC is a pretty chaotic area. People are just kind of sick already. Two, you're mixing alcohol, and there's no limit on the alcohol you can consume in this place. There's no rules. There's no inventory on the alcohol. There was no waiver I ever had to sign to work there. There's no anything or any standard of any bar anywhere that existed in this place. And they had people that, because I was so, I was fit, I was large, even though I drank, I'd get roofied. And there'd be times I'd wake up in a cab going somewhere. I'm like, let me the hell out of here before I, Hulk out on somebody or something like that. And it happened actually quite a few times, that I'd end my shift and I'd be in a cab and having no idea where I was going.
Is that how you ended up at East Eddy?
In a cab, not knowing where I was going? No. That's when I moved back here to Washington.
Oh, joking.
Yeah. No, but these people, like, they would invite you to a party and they'd call it like a masquerade party. And I was like, isn't that like you wear a bunch of weird masks and do some weird shit? And they're like, yeah, yeah. It's like a 2-day party. It was like a 2-day party. What they meant was, in this community, drugs are a huge thing. And we're talking about like heroin, cocaine, all that stuff at the same time. And they have orgies. And at that time, I was kind of tapping into that occultic science stuff. And that's like Aleister Crowley type stuff. That, you know, the sex occult magic, especially same-sex occult magic, is black magic, essentially, when they're using it in the form of multiple partners. And then, you know, when you're looking at a person, and this is just kind of to go off on a side tangent real quick, when you're looking at a person and the only thing that they're wanting from you is lust, that's not from a good place. And especially some of the requests that they'd ask you to do. I'm not going to put it on here, but they're like borderline snuff requests, if you know what the term snuff means. Mm-hmm. Like bestiality type stuff, feces types, like just the craziest thing you'd ever encounter. And that's when I kind of was like, okay, I need to get out of here. Like, this is starting to get really bad. At the time I got roofied the third time, I realized it's the same person doing it, and he comes to see me from New Jersey every weekend. Like, there's something going on. And, you know, getting out of there, and what I actually learned is, coming back to my home state after working there, I had so many attachments from that bar that it changed me as a person in view of my friends. Like a completely different person. Like, you drink way too much. You're way different. Like, you know, talking to you, you're not the same Mason. It's like, well, I've always been this person, you know, in that denial type stage.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, because I'd be drunk every single night I was there, because that's the only way I can handle it.
You should have told him I'm not the same Mason. I'm a Freemason.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, my last name is Feary, so I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so in these realms, in the intelligence agencies, there's a lot of demonic activity. And the reason why is because it's surrounded by a lot of death and deceit. So when you're in such a powerful agency like that, or CIA or FBI, there are these occultic members that kind of sweep around because they want to find the rising stars to recruit them, so that way they don't expose what they're doing. One of the things I actually got the privilege to look into while I was in the high side was 9/11. That was while I was still working. And one of my buddies was a Pentagon police officer at the time. And he said they have a mural as soon as you walk into the Pentagon that has all the high-ranking military and government personnel that were absent the day of 9/11, conveniently. So it's kind of like an internal knowing in these agencies, like, hey, you know, this stuff goes on, but you're not really supposed to talk about it. Right. Nor were you ever supposed to talk about who your politician was that you're voting for in the 2016 election either. Like, they did not allow you to talk about it, and which is weird because that's like your boss, right?
Yeah.
And once Trump got elected, there was so much reorganization within the intelligence agency. Like, he fired thousands and thousands of people, thousands of projects. As soon as he got in there, bam, budget cut. Oh, what? This was just awarded a 5-year contract and it's gone. You know.
Yeah. Well, he fired them, and a lot of people resigned because they knew what they had been doing was highly illegal, and
they're jumping ship.
They were jumping ship. Some of them, and it wasn't everybody, but the people who resigned were the ones that were specifically designated to spy on the campaign.
Oh yeah, well, or they cut deals.
Yeah.
If someone resigns, that means they're getting fired because they took a deal.
Yeah.
They got caught. Yeah, absolutely. And it was amazing. As soon as he got elected, like, we're talking about, there's like 10,000 people that work at the NGA. There's at least like 3,000 that got fired.
That's located in Virginia, right?
Yeah, Springfield, Virginia. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah. It was quite crazy.
So what happened after? I mean, so you were still employed while all these people were going down. Were you?
Nope, my project got cut.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, but I got fired before that, so it didn't matter.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. My big mouth. I always had a big mouth. I always said what I believed, whether, not necessarily to hurt people, but if it was the truth, I'm going to say it.
Well, that's why you're here now. I mean,
yeah.
And now it's only going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. But the crazy thing is, when I moved back here is when I started kind of communicating to what I would say my guides, or what I would say the figures that would kind of help me digest what I went through in my dreams. And coming back to nature, honestly, is the number one, that and food, well, this is nature, is how you can heal yourself. You look at these cities and you realize that they're completely void of nature. Why? Because that's God energy. It's the energy of creation within nature.
The very idea of a city is to disconnect us.
Yes, absolutely. And connect it into a grid of archon energy.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And chaotic energy that does not allow you to ever reach that state of calmness to where you can actually meditate.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I started getting into just, studying brain frequencies. Well, why is it that you're in a city and you don't have access to that? Well, when you're in a city, you're constantly busy because the energy of the city is increasing your energy of your being. And so when you're producing a high level of mental activity, you're actually no longer in peace. You're no longer in centered. So the energy is being used for something. But then when you realize that it's being harnessed because it's chaotic energy, well, that's a different story.
Yeah. And then you have high-rise apartments and condos that have a Wi-Fi router in every single unit. So you're totally bombarded by this radiation also.
That's why these are very necessary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Looked into William Reich and all his stuff. That was pretty cool. Ken Rolla, remember the scalar energy?
Yeah.
I have one of those.
Nice.
Those are quite amazing. The dream world is a lot more active, I would say. And a lot of times when we're in the dream world, when you wake up, it's kind of like fuzzy. You kind of run with like a little bit of tunnel vision. This one makes it so the canvas of what you're viewing is a little wider. And your interactions with beings in the dream, when you realize like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, they're more like, for me at least, my experience, they're more like, whoa, he's awake, if you know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Nice.
I've actually had similar experiences like that. I mean, I can relate to actually a lot of stuff you're saying. Now, are you talking about the cloud buster? The pyramid?
Yeah.
I want to get one of those.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah.
Quite amazing. Yeah, I just bought a Wi-Fi router. And this is to contest how it works. It's one of the better Wi-Fi routers. It's supposed to cover 2,200 square foot. My one bedroom's only 900. It won't reach the Wi-Fi from the Wi-Fi to my room. And it does, but it's intermittent. So there's obviously a signal interference between that Wi-Fi router and this device. So it's kind of cool to see that and how that works.
Sure. That's what just might as well say this really quick, but the OMNIA patch that we are affiliated with, you guys, everybody sees the commercial. That actually doesn't create any interference. It just harmonizes that frequency already. So it just kind of it's like tuning an orchestra.
It balances it, so it makes it safe. So it's not.
Yeah, it's probably converting positive ions to a negative to get that balance.
Yes, it very much works with the electricity in the air and all. It's like a scalar type of technology, but more Tesla based. I don't know, but continue. Yeah,
pretty cool stuff. So I started tapping into that. What really got me going was Edge of Wonder, of course. Everyone knows what Edge of Wonder is. I'm not trying to get a shout out to you guys, but hey, what's up? I actually ended up contacting them. I contacted them. I wanted to disclose some stuff about chemtrails. I met with one of the founders of geoengineeringwatch.org. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
I know the site. I don't know.
Yeah, his name's like Dan. I forget his name. This is like 3 years ago now. Well, I actually had a meeting with him and some of the scientists about what is it that they're putting in the atmosphere. And one of the reasons why I knew about that is because I took weather analysis in the military. It was an Air Force course. And when you have certain satellites that track weather analysis, well, how are you going to track a cloud? How do you do that? Well, you put a radioactive material within the cloud structure that can attach to either oxygen or hydrogen atoms to make it reflective for my sensor to pick it up and track its movability. So he's like, okay, well, what's strontium and barium used for? I said, well, that's one of those chemicals that when you send an IR signal to that cloud, it reflects back its signature, and then you can test the analysis. And he goes, yeah, but it's in our soil. I'm like, well, they spray it in the chemtrails. And he goes, oh, so it is a military project. I was like, yeah, of course it is. Because they were trying to relate it to deep state. But it's all the above. The deep state has a rogue Air Force connection that does all this stuff, not only for manipulation of weather, but for tracking weather to predict it as well. So this technology gets pretty in depth when you're witnessing what all these chemicals can do, and that's just through previous experience.
And that's just what it does to the clouds, and that doesn't stop at the clouds. That hits the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then you learn about Monsanto and having the aluminized seed. So it's a seed that grows in this type of soil, so they can basically create the only marketable seed within the world that will grow in this type of soil.
I'm very well of those seeds. I'm very well aware of those seeds anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's just interesting, like that stuff getting into our skin. That's why it's so important to make sure we're detoxing all the time.
Yeah. And so on a side note, because I was always into fitness, whether I did hormones or not, I learned a lot about herbs and what herbs will do to the human body. There are many herbs that you can use to take the metals out of your brain, especially aluminum, which causes Alzheimer's. And they're simple, like chlorella, spirulina, simple things like that. One, I kind of tested on myself how all these things would work. And I guess you could say from someone that is highly indoctrinated within the military system, the intelligence system, and then kind of being atheist just due to my past and my experiences. When you take these substances and you actually do decalcify your pineal gland, you'll feel it crack. You'll feel it crack, and you'll feel.
I've felt that. I have felt that. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and you'll notice that there is a slight hum sometimes, depending on where you're focusing, and that's when you're kind of opening up the DMT within your crystal of your pineal gland and it's starting to vibrate. You'll feel it wiggle. And then sometimes when you get like a real truth, you'll feel it kind of pulsate. And crazy thing, you can't really see this though, but during the time when I was at the bar, I grew a tumor right here.
Really?
You grew a tumor?
Tumor, about the size of a golf ball, right on my third eye.
Wow.
And, I think it was signifying to use it.
Yeah, it's very possible.
What's going on? Yeah, it was crazy. I had to get it surgically removed because it got pretty big. But these supplements and things, they want you to not have any of these in your diet, and that's why they're depleting all the minerals in our food. They're putting all these harmful chemicals that act as a certain nutrient source, but they totally will shut down cellular reproduction within the body, so you're not even growing normal cells anymore, because they don't want you to have access, which is kind of your birthright to this information, to what your body and how your body is a tool to pick up a multitude of different information, whether it's physical, emotional, mental. Mental is a huge area if you want to tap into that kind of stuff. And going through these things and modalities and meditations, people, I ask people, do you meditate? And they go, oh, no, I don't want to meditate. So, well, when you're in the shower, do you take a moment to pause? Do you feel the water hitting your body, and do you appreciate the sensations, or are you just too busy that you just want to get done and out, over with?
Yeah.
And it kind of takes people aback a little bit, and they realize that their lives are so busy that they don't enjoy things anymore. Mm-hmm. If you can't express emotion, are you even living?
Yeah.
Like really.
That's true. We forget how to have fun as we go through this, and that's important. That's very important.
Most people are in a very unconscious state, and that's what the cabal, like everything they do, is to keep everyone in this very unconscious state, and then mind control from there. Because then that's where you can be mind controlled, and you can whatever programs they put out there, you just take it in, and you're not without a second thought, and then you just think that's your own thoughts, or that's just the way it is.
And not only that, but when it comes to your own thoughts, people don't realize, but when you're walking in public and you have a crazy random thought, that most times is not yours. That's a thought from another person that you're walking by that's within your vicinity that you're picking up. It's like, oh, why did I randomly think of,
or entities, absolutely. And you think it's your own thoughts, and then you start going the more you start going down that route, the more they have control over you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And a perfect example of the programming or control is walking around wearing a mask, thinking that you're being a stand-up citizen and doing the right thing.
Yeah. During
they got you if you're doing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say it like, back in the day, the vampire movies, they have to knock to ask for permission to enter your home. Well, in the mental world, if you can kind of project your awareness into a sphere above your head, you'll notice that the thoughts that gravitate around that area are those vampires asking for permission to enter within your domain. And as soon as you shift your perspective to that thought, which is a thought that you may not want, it has access to whoever or whatever you're trying to accomplish. And, a lot of times it's difficult to figure out which thoughts are yours, but in order to do that, you have to create distance between your thoughts instead of having your mind just constantly be on like a spool, constantly feeding you stuff. And that's what meditation helps you, is create that space between the thoughts so you can kind of identify, well, is this my being trying to speak to me? Is this what I'm wanting? And if it's not, don't even allow it in your awareness. And that's one of the things that I learned just through when I came back to Washington. I had 2 years I was unemployed, which honestly was beautiful, but it was very stressful. To where all I did was walk in nature the whole day. I walked about 9 miles a day. And what it taught me was that no matter the thoughts that were going on in my head, nature still exists and it's still there, operating, in totality to its existence. And it kind of humbles you a little bit that, here I am thinking I'm a human, the most advanced thing on this planet, yet the harmonious union with the planet seems much more peaceful than what I've ever been able to achieve. Just the flowing of the water, the rustling of the trees. And then you kind of settle down in your own being and you kind of process your emotions a little bit more when you're left to not do anything but do that. And it's doable. Everybody can achieve this. It's just there's certain steps that you have to be willing to take to get there, which is not mainstream. It's not medical. It's not your doctor that's going to help you do this. It's you that has to make the choice to do
it. Yeah, dude,
absolutely.
Fantastic advice. I mean, it's so true. I think you're inspiring me to go spend some more time in nature.
Well, it's a different connection.
It's pretty
Washington's different though. I mean, you guys have been to ECETI. Washington just has that energy about it. Yes, where I'm at, I'm actually surrounded by 3 mountain ranges. So I've got the Olympics, I've got Mount St. Helens, and Mount Rainier, all within my little area. And so I can literally go 5 minutes and I'll be in a trail. And if you've done the work and you have the ability to have that space, just breathing in the fresh air, you have access to higher informational energy in the forest, in the denser areas. And you can tell the difference because as soon as you step out of the city to literally that wooded area, your intuitive hits are like almost automatic. Like, oh, I should go do that for a project. Your creative ability is amplified because you're not suppressed with all the external distractions and energies that are around you.
Oh, exactly. Yep.
So it was a beautiful experience to have. And people talk about regressive therapy. You can do that yourself. You don't necessarily need to spend so much money to do that. You can do research, but then it's shifting that perspective. Something happened to me in the past. Yeah, it was terrible, but who did I become because of that? And because of who I became, how can I help heal others get through those same scenarios? And that's where the power is. If you can get through your darkness and you can use that darkness as a tool to help others, then I think you actually won.
Sure. That's so crucial right now because this is what people need to be doing because we all have, that's so perfect. Yeah, you take what you went through, what you learned, and you use that to help the people coming up, the people who are still going through that. And this is why what I'm noticing right now, as far as this movement goes, and so many people getting sucked into this information warfare, and they are so caught up and distracted and just obsessed with every little piece of information coming out, that they've totally neglected themselves and what they're doing and who they even are. And it's so easy for me to see what, I'm not trying to say that we're better than anybody. It's just something as I've been calming my mind, I've been noticing, as opposed to not even that long ago, I was right there sucked in it as well.
I was there at one point too. Yeah.
They're tools. They really are, but they're tools for what the occult would say, the master. Yeah. So with the Q movement, right? It gives people the ability to do all this research, to be aware of a world that they never thought existed or they never would wish to exist. But the problem is your own traumas can then be identified within this movement to where you're not healing yourself. You're spending all your time on this information that is not necessarily out of your control, but it is out of your control in the sense of, why are you spending all your time doing all that? It's good to spread the information, but it's also, there's a trend. The more people that do the inner work, the more the outer world's shadow is exposed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the more we look inside within ourselves, because we're all connected, we're just separated by perspective. The more that this darkness is going to fall. This play has already been written. We're witnessing it now. Trump's done with COVID, showing the world, because he's not just addressing America. He's saying the whole world should not be afraid of this, because these people are already taken down. There's already these operations being done. There's deals been taken. There's people resigning. There's 200 and some odd CEOs that resigned within the last year. Those are deals in the professional world that were taken because those people are going to be removed from the game. So now us as I guess you call them light workers or way showers, what I think the mode of focus should now be is making sure that we're in check. How are we doing? Because there's a lot going on in the world, and we can pick up those things and sometimes not realize that that's not necessarily what's going on within us, but within our area. And then create opportunities for people to have access to that kind of information. Because on a wide scale, and this is just my observation, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone in the community, but I think if we were to start promoting more healing individually, we will see a faster progression of healing within the planet.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because in a sense right now, what we're seeing, what I'm seeing is we exit from the matrix. We exit from one program, and then now you've entered another program that's just as dangerous, actually. Even though even though you're learning about all this stuff, exposing all these criminals and all this stuff, and we are fighting to make a change, it's still another program. Like Aaron said one time, Q should just be a stepping stone. It's not the
if you stop there and you put all your energy and focus into that, you're just stepping into another program, and you're actually just feeding the dark by feeding it all your energy instead of
it's still an illusion.
Yes.
Yeah. Q's not going to be around forever. What happens when Q's over? Where all these,
and that doesn't mean ignore what's going on. It doesn't mean, because that's what a lot of people do the other extreme, where they don't want to look at it at all. Don't tell me. Don't talk about it, because now you're creating.
That's also them not being able to face a shadow within them.
Yes.
It's that's a shadow aspect that they don't even want to touch. I don't even talk about
that. I know people like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they go, they're sensitive, and I say, I understand that, but here's the key to escaping duality. You have to see both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You have to see both sides. You have to integrate the energies, because you're a light worker. Why? Because you shine on the shadow.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, and I just want to clarify also, like you said, no disrespect to anybody that's out there fighting for this.
Yeah, no, not at all. That's obviously their mission.
No.
Yeah. And honestly, maybe what they're doing is working for them, and it won't work for me, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. It's just we're all at a different level also.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't mean any disrespect. It's just something I've noticed.
Yeah. And it's also accountability for your own, like when you're, and this is what I've noticed, when you're tapping into some of these subjects, depending on your level of awareness, you're actually bringing forth that energy. So if I'm viewing darkness, there's darkness viewing me. It's a two-way street in this dimension, and in the third eye dimension. If I'm observing you, you're being observed. So when you're into these type of topics and you're getting into the sadistic, satanic, ritualistic stuff, you're actually absorbing some of that energy from what you're inputting in your attention, because you're paying attention to it, to where they have access to you. and you're actually holding on to energetic baggage from constantly viewing this type of stuff. So if that's what motivates you and you want to create that as a movement, that's absolutely fine. But just make sure you do clearings. Make sure you're not bringing any baggage home. And another thing, I was talking to a friend of mine, is when they're telling these versions of these stories, you have to be aware of what your throat chakra is projecting towards people. Are you projecting fear or are you projecting hope? And there's a huge difference between the two. If I tell you a story of my past experience, should you feel sad for me, or should my experience help you feel empowered about how I got through it? And that's using your higher chakras to not influence or hurt anyone, but to show the truth through what you do.
Well, I think you've pretty much mastered that, because your story is empowering.
Well, that's a fraction. I still got a lot of personal details I don't really want to get out on the web.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but you told it. What I'm saying is, you told it in a way that was empowering. It wasn't like, you left us hopeful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's, for those 2 years, I will tell you, I thought of suicide every single day. But there was an inner strength within me that I knew that those thoughts weren't mine, and this wasn't my life. This wasn't my purpose. And as a result of constantly reprogramming that thought, even though it was the daily thing, right? I didn't eat for like 3 weeks at a time one time. I was at 240 pounds and went down to like 168 in a month because I wasn't eating. But it's crazy because my old body that I had with all the supplements, it was fueling this adventure. So in a way, fasting for that half a month is what accelerated my spiritual growth, because I was fasting. Not because I wanted to be, but it's because I was forced to be.
Yeah.
Totally.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I want to do the 40-day fast. 15 is the longest I've gone.
The longest I've gone was 7 days one time.
It's quite amazing, isn't it?
I had a bacterial infection in my stomach, and I had to basically quit eating for a week. Otherwise it would not. I had to cleanse it.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
honestly,
it cool that your body naturally does that?
And what happened was, I had more energy after the first couple of days. I had more energy than I would have ever imagined. I would have never guessed that I would have felt so good.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why that is?
I mean, enlighten me.
So your body takes in fuel for the physical self. When you're taking in cosmic energy, or what we would call the negative polarity energy, which is this energy in space, your etheric body is being charged at that point. So your body is taking in cosmic energy. You're no longer trying to repair cells. Your cells are repaired. You're taking an infinite abundance of energy. You can live off water and breath alone, because you're charging your energy centers. You're creating an electromagnetic field that will stimulate those cells. So if you wanted to do this permanently, there's people that have done it for like 20 years. You have to get your body to optimal health before you can create that electric current within your being and no longer need food. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, you can't do that. But there's hundreds of people who have done it throughout many cultures, and it's definitely possible. Yeah. It depends on your level of surrender. Me personally, I like food.
It takes a certain mindset also. It definitely, you have to have a mindset to accomplish anything, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite incredible what the human body is just already designed to do, and we just forgot about it.
Yeah. So what do you see? What do you see taking place as far as like the consciousness expansion right now? Like, obviously we're all doing the inner work, and then you said the inner work projects in the outer work.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as just on a worldwide collective, a lot of people have like these crazy numbers, like 80+% of the planet is already awake. And I think that's a high number, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on
so you can be awake, but you can still be lost.
Yeah.
Right. Do you remember you guys awakened quite a while ago, I think, right? Because certain
about 8 years ago for me, and about
8 years ago.
5.
Would you say from 2017 till now, your awakening has accelerated?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what happens is the more that other people kind of break that cognitive programming, it opens up different areas within the collective grid that other people can tap into. So there are some beings that are incarnated here that have the ability to access past life dimensional energy from a higher level of existence. So when they anchor in those higher dimensional aspects, it uploads that to the collective to then be taught to people, or to have some people tap into their own dream space to bring it back through. And what it is, it's just ancient lost knowledge. Have you guys read the Secret Flower of Life, the volumes of those?
I want to.
Okay.
I read the first one.
I
I read the first one. Yeah. Did I not make you aware of that book? Was that
yes,
not
you did.
I was going to say. Wait.
So,
Nice.
I read that book, and so it's quite amazing. So something that I've learned is, because I've gone through, I've regressed myself all the way up until about 5 years old, and because I just can't remember that. I just can't remember past then. I'm actually getting a quantum hypnosis therapist session pretty soon to have access to that. When you create a clear channel throughout your entire existence in this life, it's a more powerful conductor to channel into previous timelines, because your karmic calendar, so to speak, is kind of not necessarily wiped clear, but you've learned your lessons at the level of what that lesson was provided to you. So when we start looking into, as more people awaken, you're kind of creating a bigger array of interpretations from signals, right? So if there are extraterrestrial races that you're connected to, but there's a larger presence of people on this planet that are awakened, the message will be received more. And the reason why it's more is because your brain waves are functioning at a different level. They produce, the statistic of humans only use 9% of your brains. They want you to use 9% of your brains because you don't have access to attract the information from the cosmos at that point. It's rudimental. It's used for survival, procreation, and basic infrastructure design. That's all that's good for. It's not good for thinking creatively. It's not good for trying to not repeat history, right? Because it's always history repeats itself. Well, because we're thinking the same way. You can't do the same thing twice and not expect a different result, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people within the community that the healing that they do bring in new kind of insights and like aha moments that help people heal. And what the focus on is, from what I'm trying to understand, is the power truly exists in the higher chakras. But the higher chakras are the ones that are the most attacked. And we can see this through symbolism. We can see this through colors and advertisement. We can see this through chemicals that block your pineal gland. And the reason why that is because the lower chakras channel downwards. It comes from top down. So if you attack the mind, the first, which is the biggest plane in the universe, it's called the mental, the mental realm. It's the biggest one in the universe. Most of the higher dimensional beings operate in that level only. That's why they're not physical vessels. Then you'll start to see like why the world is the way it is. They don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to be creative. They don't want you to channel those interdimensional abilities. And to explain it real quickly, you'll get a desire from higher intuition, higher self. You'll see the desire. You will speak the desire. You will feel the desire. You will be the desire, which is the will, right? You will experience the desire, sacral chakra, and you will feel and live the desire, that is your root chakra. So it comes top down. So if we have traumatic experiences that scar us and we can't think about those things, you're blocking your connection from ever receiving the information to heal itself, because you won't go anywhere down. You can't feel through that experience, feel through that presence to heal it. You have to use your entire system to heal your body. And unfortunately, we're taught the 7 chakra system. Are you guys familiar with the 13th chakra system?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 13th chakra system is what the ancient Egyptians used to use. And I have a picture here.
Now, are those the ones that go outside the body? So then you have one like in like the atmosphere, then above that, then all the way to source, or are you talking about 13 within the body?
So there's 13 in the body, and I'll kind of show. I'm gonna share this real quick. I can't share that.
Oh, do we need to allow you to screen share?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Or I can send it to you and you can screen share it.
No, hang on. We can do this. 1%.
Is
Oh,
it?
there.
Oh, there we go.
Now try it. You should be able to.
Okay. How are we doing on time?
You're good. You got plenty of time.
15 minutes, maybe
50.
ish.
Only been 15 minutes?
15 to 20.
Or left, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah.
So we've been going for about an hour, so.
Just because I got.
This is where the content's getting good because now I'm getting.
Yeah, just because I work overnights, so at a certain point I have to.
Right. So can you guys see this image right here?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are what are called the 13 energy chakras, and they are they're ethereal ones. People talk about the well of dreams being at the base of the spine and all that kind of stuff. This is a little bit different. These are the etheric chakras, and they start a little bit different. The main 7 that we have are here, and it's funny that they contain 3 of the main 5 platonic solids when it comes to the Metatron's cube, Milky Way gateway. If you were to think in terms of astrology, this Metatron's cube represents the galaxy's astrology chart in forms of sacred geometry. So we have the Earth gateway, which is the core of the Earth, the Earth star, which kind of is the crystalline grid, if you want to think of it that way. These are represented by beings. You know, the names can be whatever you want them to be, but they're kind of represented by different beings. And then we have all the chakra systems and their associated beings with the ones. And I think we're all familiar with Gabriel, Chamuel, Uriel, and Metatron himself.
Yeah.
So when we kind of look at these chakra systems and you identify what these are, you have a different understanding of what it means to be kind of human. The soul star, the 10th chakra, which sits above your head, you'll feel that when you're engaging with people at a soul level, like setting, right? Your intuition's a little more higher. You can kind of, when people are telling their stories, you can kind of watch a little movie within your own intuition, right? It's because at a soul level, you're connecting. And each one of your chakra systems are kind of putting a web of connection between each person. So when you start opening up these higher chakras, you have access to these types of information. You have the ability to gain higher cosmic knowledge through these chakra centers. The stellar gateway, which is the 11th, is also known as the divine feminine chakra. That is the access to the cosmic feminine nature. The 12th chakra would be the divine masculine. Not saying that 12 is better or 11 is, lesser. It's just how they're kind of arranged there. And that will gain the access to the masculine presence, the solar essence of the cosmos. When we go up higher to the 13th chakra, that is, if you were to relate as a physical energy, that is the chakra of our galaxy. And what that will do is that will give you cosmic truths. That will give you truths of who you are as a star lineage. That gives you connection to your Akashic records. That gives you access to many different lifetimes on different areas. And these are all chakra systems that you can use as well as the ones physically in your body. They're just not taught. They're not taught in mainstream spiritual science or metaphysical science. But they do exist. And when you mess with them, you'll have profound experiences. Not only in meditation, though. That's where the thing gets different. A lot of people say they have to experience these things in meditation. These chakras you experience conscious, because you're bridging your subconscious feminine mind and your conscious mind at the same time to where you have access to the universal energies. And that's actually something that I'm getting ready to teach, how to experience these things and how to increase intuition, but more so synchronistic intuition, meaning a lot of people will encounter synchronicities, but are they manifesting what you want? Or is it an unconscious manifestation, and how to tell the difference? It's just having a higher perspective. Think about it like sitting a couple stages above you, watching the people within your sphere and your world, but watching how these positions are orienting themselves. And so these are tools to help us get back to where we want to go through ascension, which is one of the main parts of expanding your consciousness, is having access to these energies.
Yeah. And it's interesting you brought up the synchronicities, because that's something that has always troubled me since I learned about synchronicities. And I was the same as you. I had some entity attachments after my mother died when I started drinking and getting into drugs, and I went through a whole experience as well. But I started wondering, like, okay, how do I know that it's my guides? How do I know that these synchronicities are my guides that are here to serve my higher purpose? How do I know it's not some malevolent entity that's trying to steer me in the wrong direction by giving me a false synchronicity?
The easiest key is to know that your inner reality is expressed through your outer reality. How do you treat people?
Yeah.
You treat them with your higher heart chakra, meaning that you try to give them your best without taking too much of your own energy. If you do, then that's your direct line to your guides.
Yeah.
When you're giving from the heart, I always tell people, like, if I'm always giving to set the example and everyone's doing the same thing, everybody is receiving. So when you're at that service to others level, and you can still do things for yourself, right? But when you're at that manifestation level and consciously aware of that manifestation level, you'll be able to tell, because are the things manifesting for you, or are they manifesting for you with others? And when it comes to synchronicities, it's a little bit different than, I'm asking my spirit guides to give me a sign. What that is that is a block within your third eye and your crown chakra. And I'm not saying all the time, but majority of the time, because you have to ask for an external validation.
Sure.
So when you have the internal validation mastered, that's when you know you're in control of your manifestations. External synchronicities are fine because it's a tool. It's how do you tune it, right?
Yeah. I have a theory also that, like going through the awakening, when I first started experiencing a lot of stuff, it was like they were allowing me to see an entire different reality. I was having these crazy experiences I couldn't explain. Nobody would believe me even if I told them. The synchronicities were off the charts. I mean, I couldn't, it was like I just entered a whole new world. And then I eventually got to a point and it seemed like a switch was flipped and it all stopped. And I think that's where we're supposed to take over. I think you discover the stuff, they show you this world, this reality that exists. They let you know it's there. They let you know it's real, and they make sure that you are aware of its tangibility. And then they shut it off and they say, okay, how bad do you want to reach that? How bad do you want to get back to this way of living? And it's up to you to reach that again. And that's my theory anyway. I think that's why it stopped. Like, now it's my turn to put in the work and do the shadow work and learn what I need to do and enhance myself and grow and develop to be able to have these experiences again. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, but that's absolutely 100% true. But you also have to look in the terms of cosmic energy. So if we go for 2018, for example, 2018 was the 11 year. 11 means manifestation. If we all look at 2018, that was kind of a powerful year to get stuff on that ball rolling. So it's because the planetary alignments, where they were going to and where they're at now, will influence, either depending on who you are, your manifestation ability. But then also, because you're in a certain vibration, right? Oh, things are going good. Things are going good. You're more grateful. And gratitude is where manifestation hits its grounding and creates its physical presence. So they do give you a glimpse, because why would you can't just go shooting in the dark for all of your existence and not have anything to look forward to. But what it does is you have now reached a different level of karmic repercussion, right? So initially, before the awakening, karma happens to you. But now at the awakening, there are certain people that aren't necessarily void of karma, but they don't experience it unless it's a positive karma because of what they're giving out. So once you master your karma, you'll have a little bit easier time to manifest, because you're no longer in a state of doubt or manifesting from a state of fear. And that's where those confusing synchronicities are overwhelming, because you're not consciously creating them with them. They're showing you how to do it, but it's the key of how to channel your mental, emotional energy to manifest what you want, and then know it's coming before it arrives. You're being kind of chaotic. It's because it's showing you the more chaotic those manifestations are, is the more you need to work on your balance. The more, and it's a masculine and feminine side when it comes to that. It's how receptive are you and how giving are you within your being. And then that can paint your path to your synchronicity a little more smoothly. where it won't seem as chaotic as your initial awakening. Because there's layers to this. There's, when we first awaken to this possibility, it's like, oh my God. But then once you start mastering that one, there's more. Because then you have the ability to see how others are manifesting. And then from how others are manifesting, how is that affecting everybody else? Not saying that you have control of their manifestations, but you have the ability to be aware of what they're manifesting. And you can kind of help them tweak it through your own experiences. And that's how you're giving your knowledge to other people.
Yeah. Next time you should come a little more prepared. I'm joking. This has been amazing, dude. I mean, it's really, I feel like I'm sitting through some type of webinar or something.
Oh, were you being serious? I'm sorry, man.
No, I'm joking. No, I'm not. It's fascinating.
I'm not good at sarcasm. My bad.
No, I was joking because you're obviously very well versed in all this stuff, and you've studied up on it, and you know exactly what you're talking about.
Actually,
you have a way of presenting it that actually is easy to digest.
Yeah. So what that is I'm connecting to your soul stars. Well, it's kind of harder for me on video because this is the first time doing it. But I have the ability to connect to your higher perspective awareness that can communicate to both of you, or anybody really, with how you've learned in your perceptible reality up to this point to explain things that you understand. And it can be any topic. It doesn't really matter what it is. And it's because of those accesses to those informational streams that can kind of filter down etherically, but also physically.
I guess I'll just have to take your word for that. No, I'm just messing with you, dude.
Okay.
No, that's actually really interesting, and I think that's how we should all be teaching and learning.
Yeah, so think about it like this. Back when you're in school, when you were interested in something, you're connected on an agape plane, right? A love plane. So when you're connected on that energetic level, you're opening more receptivity to the neurotransmitters within your brain, which allows telekinetic experiences to happen. When you're speaking to something that's very passionate, you're almost reliving that experience through the speaker, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how the ancients taught. You get that vibrational level coming from the heart sphere. So then you have access to all these ones, and then the information literally just comes through you. Versus school now, you hate it. And then there's all these learning disabilities. There's all these learning drugs and all these things that you have to focus on, like, oh, take Adderall, because they're not opening the proper channels to allow the information to come within your being. Once it's in your being and you've heard it, you don't have to store it in here. It's not stored here. It's stored around you because it's a part of you. And that's the difference between accessing knowledge and retaining knowledge. They want you to retain and regurgitate, not access. It's using two different parts of your energetic being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. Yep. That makes so much sense. The school system, we were just talking about the other day, you give them your entire day and then you go home and you spend the rest of the time doing homework, and then they stress you out at a young age. They start beating you up at a young age, basically.
It's all about programming.
Yeah.
It's not about
absolutely
actual education. Yeah.
Yeah. Graduate with a square cap on your head because they took a cosmic consciousness and put a box around it.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Exactly. Oh man. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. This has been
amazing.
And
thank you.
We'd love to have you back if you have more to share. We're going to have to start wrapping it up this evening, unfortunately. But yeah, dude, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on. And I hope this reaches a lot of people. If you're listening to this, if it resonated, please share this out. Mason's awesome, and we can help him. You had mentioned wanting to start a YouTube channel. Were you still considering that? Or?
Well, so I'll say this. I think I'm no longer a targeted individual. I have experienced some, the reason why I know that term is because I was looking like, hey, is this stuff like a rare occurrence or is it real? Well, it is real. To where I'm not necessarily afraid of my safety, but I was kind of being messed with a little bit, especially with my affiliation and my clearance level that I did hold. I did hold a top secret clearance in the intelligence agency. And they were very worried about what I was going to provide, given that I'm now no longer within the matrix of their control. That I'm not necessarily worried of this knowledge. But the problem is some of the knowledge that I have come to acquire, some of it you have to learn through your own internal guidance.
Yeah.
You have to be ready at a spiritual, mental, and physical level to even kind of know some of these things. And I'm not saying like I'm withholding knowledge. It's just Some of this stuff isn't teachable because you and your own consciousness is your own version of divine inspiration or divine creation. So I can give the basic fundamentals, but then you have to teach yourself, because the best teacher is your higher self. And that is what I can teach you to communicate to.
Yeah. It's like when your parents, your mother or father told you something when you were 10 and it didn't finally resonate until you were 30. And you're like, oh my God, now I know why they told me that. It only took 20 years.
Yeah, I just turned 30 2 weeks ago too, man.
But I get what you're saying. There's so many things that I've read and so much information I've come across that at the time didn't resonate. And only in a short amount of time will something click, and I'm like, now I get it.
Yeah, that's so basically what I call that is seeding your own consciousness. What you'll do is you'll get a higher source of information, but then you set the desire, which is a crown chakra manifestation in the mental field. You'll set that desire to experience synchronicity to teach you that understanding. So you're using your own chakra system to teach and expand your own connection through interacting with the universe. And that's where the main teaching is because at that moment, you're at a level that the universe is directly communicating and teaching you through your experiences, but you're conscious of it. And it's a completely different experience when you're co-creating with synchronicity at a larger scale. And, you prove it through the things that you achieve, not only within your own being and getting that grounding sense of peace, but then also with the message that you have to share that resonates deeply within people.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, I think you've given us all a lot to think about, and you definitely inspired me. Seriously, you've inspired me to want to start taking my spiritual growth a little more seriously. Again, I feel like I kind of, somebody used the term spiritual binger at one time. I go real heavy and then I'll step away for a little bit. I just think that it's time for me to step back into it a little more. So I appreciate everything you said because it really gives me a lot to think about. And I'm sure everyone listening too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't watch TV anymore. I can't. I don't. All I do is I read. I listen to music, and I meditate. Once you get all those distractions aside and you fully integrate your experience and you honor your experience, you have a much different viewpoint on reality. It's kind of more like it's like living the dream, but you're consciously in control of it. I can go through my day because when you carry a mental like signature with you, you're carrying your reality in your space. So when you want only things that you desire, you're attracting the only things that you desire. You're creating experiences that you won't have to go stoop your vibration down to go speak negatively to someone unless you're attracting that. You have complete and total control of your synchronistic events. You're not going to yell at anyone. You're not going to get in a car accident. You're not going to have to worry about being shot because your vibration won't allow it. And the universal energies that you're creating, your synchronistic events, will not allow it. And I can contest to that because I've been in some pretty crazy scenarios where bad things should have happened, but because those thoughts never knocked on my door, they never manifested. Yep. These things that you don't want, don't let them in. Yeah. They have to use your power to even manifest anyway. So it's beautiful.
It's so interesting. You said, you won't get shot because you're at a certain level. I always wonder that about guns, and a lot of people are not going to agree with this, and it's a very unpopular opinion, but I always thought, like, if you feel like you need to own a gun, you're already manifested somebody.
Manifested the possibility.
Yeah, maybe you're afraid somebody's going to break into your house, so you go buy a gun to protect. And then somebody tries to break into your house, you have the gun, and you think, oh, thank God I went and bought this gun, otherwise I would have been killed. Yeah. But maybe by buying the gun for that exact reason, you manifested that situation.
Possibility. Depends on the level of awareness and energy you put into that, but absolutely. Yeah. So if you don't want to, or if you don't wish to experience something that I call under the heart chakra level of experience, it doesn't even exist in your thought. You're aware of it, right? Like guns exist. People can shoot you. But the more you're paranoid about it, think about all the stuff that happened in your life prior to your waking. The more you thought about stuff you didn't want, what happened?
Yeah.
There you go. So you sure you didn't want that? Like,
Well, like you said earlier, your outer reality is just a reflection of your inner. So whatever energies you have harboring in your system, it's gonna be reflected in the outer world, and it's gonna be showing you, hey, this is where you're at. This is where you're resonating at.
Yeah.
And then you're going to attract those things.
And then the topic of guns. Okay, so the political spectrum in this reality has hijacked the human core values. You have Democrats, which are blue, that is masculine energy. You have Republicans, which are red, that is feminine energy or receptive energy. You have gun rights on one side and abortion on the other. They are the same thing. It is death at an innocent child or death at the hands of the gun owner. It is the same experience energetically, only difference by degree. So when you realize that everything that has its poles, everything is opposite, everything is dual, once you learn that, you'll learn how to master shifting your perspective to stay in the neutral point and bypassing the program. So all these things exist for a certain reason. You'll notice that the pro-gun people are complete opposite of the pro-abortion people. And then look at all the other layers of belief systems that carry along that spectrum. So it really gets down to, what is it that you truly believe? And do you know what it is that you believe? Because once you understand the duality at its true essence, you are both God and a demon. You have two sides to you. It just depends on which side you align with. But you have to recognize that there's both within you. And once you don't recognize that, you're either creating a shadow aspect, or you're only seeing the light and completely not acknowledging that either one of their existence, which would be, in my perspective, denying the creator's total existence. Yeah. Now, there are certain parties that have gone a little bit too far in the darkness, and that's why people like you and I are here. But it's also balancing that duality, which is my Instagram page, Balancing Duality 11.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to plug your pages and where people can find you and all that.
Just started it. This has given me the motivation to actually start creating this stuff, because I think this type of information is what I think deep down, I think what people are looking for.
Yeah.
I got out of some pretty dark stuff, and this stuff, I tell you what, it makes you appreciate, have so much more gratitude than you ever thought possible. And then when you have those accesses, the universe will give it back to you. Absolutely.
Man, well, we're going to end on that. Thank you so much. All right. So, yeah, go say your Instagram one more time, Facebook. What else?
Sure. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
You don't even know it.
I just started it. I don't like to be public with this kind of stuff.
You don't have to.
But I need to.
We'll have it in the description too.
People are going to want to follow you after.
Balancing Duality 11.
Balancing Duality 11. That's Instagram, right?
Yes.
And then just Mason Feary on Facebook.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be giving out some tips onto how to understand kind of the game of reality on a little bit higher mental plane. But I'm going to try to explain the occult knowledge, which is how all these people do this stuff, in regular terms, to consciously recreate your ability to be a co-creator here.
Well, after what I heard today, there's no way you could fail, man. I think it's a win-win if you pursue that path. So, yeah, we'll be looking forward to a lot more from you.
Yeah.
And,
can't wait, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we're gonna.
You're like the third people I've ever actually talked to about this stuff.
Nice. Well, it'll be. Next time we talk will be like the 3,000 person.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, you guys, thanks for listening. Make sure you head over to Mason's pages. Go check him out. Go follow him. I'm sure it'll be a lot more coming from him. Don't forget, we have our OMNIA patches like we were talking about earlier. They do work. They're provable. If you don't believe it, buy it and test the hell out of it, because they do work. It has changed my life. It got rid of my migraine headaches. I didn't realize that this radiation was causing these headaches. Neither did any other doctor in the world. I had to figure it out on my own. We have t-shirts. We have new designs available. Teespring.com. The link is below. We have some Trump t-shirts we just made for, pre-election, post-election, whenever. Go check it out. And yeah, please. And everybody, once again, thank you for the donations we've been getting.
Yes,
My
thank
gosh.
you. Thank you guys so much.
It does not go unnoticed. We appreciate every single one of them. Thank you all. You know who you are. And I believe that's it. Until next time, thanks again, Mason, for coming on. And we'll see you guys next.
For having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We will see you guys next week. Good night.